Hello, Lou.
Good morning. It's the 2nd of November. This is Rabbi Furst, Pierke Avos.
Here. Oh, here we go. Okay. Good morning, Rabbi Shlomo Furst here. Here on Zoom in Yerushalayim. This is our first year. We're in the middle of the tshuva about whether or not one can save a non-Jew from death. And let's take a look at the, when you see it on your screen, I'll show you where it is. We're in the Rav Silverstein here. He's presenting us with the Rambam Shita. We'll review that and we'll continue on. Any volunteers to do some reading this morning?
I'll read.
I'm working with Barry right now, trying to help him get connected.
Okay, we'll start right here by the red
Shiloh. Okay.
right there.
Okay.
Go
So
ahead,
we have a question. Nemar Rambam. It says in the Rambam, Pierke Zion Me'avodah Zarah Hilka Aleph. Ein Carson Bris L'Sava Amamim L'Sava Amamim. You do not make a pact or an agreement with the 7 nations, K'tei Shenasa Imahem Shalom, in order to have peace with them, the Ninach Osam Lavod Akum, and allow them to continue to worship their avodah zarah. Shnei because the pasuk says, "Lo tikras lahem bris," don't make a covenant with them. Ele yachazru me'avodosehem o yahargu, except change them from the ways of their worship, so they don't do avodah zarah, or you kill them.
Right, because they're chayav misa anyway. If the non-Jews are being involved with the avodah zarah, so they're chayav misa. So you do the best you can for them. You try and explain to them they should give up their avodah zarah, and if not, so you just kill them. And therefore, it's forbidden to make a treaty with them, because making a peace pact with them, it's only going to be to their ultimate detriment. Because if they remain alive and continue serving idols, they're continually involved with sin. So you want to stop that in one way or the other.
And it's forbidden to have mercy upon them, because the pasuk says, "Do not be merciful to them." Lefichach, im ra'a mehem oved o tova benar yo ya'alenu. If you see one of them who is lost or drowning in the ocean, in a river, you shouldn't help him out.
1 minute.
Right. Very good. So therefore, since the law is you're not supposed to have favor for them, so therefore, if they're in a situation of facing death, you're not obligated to save them in any way. That's the Rambam. Okay.
It looks like, I don't know.
Rahu nitoi lamavet lo yatzilenu. If it looks like they go to die, you don't save them.
Administrator.
What's the rest? Yud Ayin Vav Shin?
Right. That Ayin Sham.
Ayin Sham. Okay.
Right. Take a look at it. So take a look at the Rambam inside if you want to see he's basically pointing the Rambam, but there's a little more detail to see over there if you want to look inside.
Okay. The Makaro Besugya Hagamara, and the basis of the Sugya in the Gemara, Bavodah Zarah Daf Kovav Amad Aleph. That's what you see in the Gemara. Yesh lehistapek mahadin kishamu Yisrael the Aviv Akum, and what would the din be of the person whose mother, Imo Yisrael, whose mother is a Jew and whis father is a goy? V'ro es Aviv Tova benahar, and he sees his father drowning in the river. Ha'em muter lo hatzilo. Is it muter for him to save him?
Right.
So for a Jew to save his non-Jewish father.
Right.
Okay.
The question's clear to everybody?
Yes.
Don't all speak at once.
Well, wait a minute. Question. if he's related or not related, is there a difference?
Exactly. I mean, if he's not related, clearly you're not obligated, and it's actually according to the Rambam, you're over an issue to save them. And the question is, since he's related in some way, does that change the halacha?
Okay, that's the sheila.
Okay. Tshuva, answer. Matzinu v'poskim, we see in the poskim, shekasher yesh chovos hakor satov l'goy. In the case that you have a din or an obligation of hakor satov, being thankful for goodness to a goy, in Yisrael lo techanem. You're not subject to the issue of lo techanem. You're not forbidden from being kind to them. Moshe Matzinu legabe Yosef atzadik shasa tova lekomrim shel Mitzrayim, and that's what we see as far as Yosef atzadik went, as far as doing good to the komrim, the officers or the people of Israel.
Those are the priests.
The priests. The priests of Mitzrayim. Betur hakar satov shehem hitzilu es haye b'shas ha'alila. That it was done as a matter of a karsa tov, of thanking them for the goodness or recognizing the goodness that they saved him when he came out of prison, or they helped him when he came out of prison.
The alila is the accusation when Ashes Potiphar falsely accused him of trying to.
Oh, okay.
So the priests of Mitzrayim during the trial there, they came to defend him by bringing certain proofs that she was lying with her claims. So since he was saved by them.
Okay. So from the accusation,
even though they were obviously clearly Oived of Vodavazori, but I imagine your normal run-of-the-mill Egyptian at the time was certainly Oived of Vodavazora. But the priests of Mitzrayim certainly would be involved with idol worship.
Shehalilam alav Ashes Potiphar, that the accusations against them were made by Ashes Potiphar. Mishum kach admas hakonim.
Where's the source for this information? It's not in the Torah. Is it a medrash?
Medrash, yes. The two midrashim speak about that when Ashes Potiphar accused Yosef, so he was brought to trial, and he was exempted from the charges of Ashes Ish, because the proofs were brought by the priests that they couldn't have done it. So he had Hakar Satov to the priests in Mitzrayim that they saved him from a death sentence. He would have been a chai of a death sentence, and instead he only went to prison.
Why was he exempted from death sentence?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I didn't see the court records. If I have a chance, I could try and see. I can. Okay.
Umishum kach admas hakohanim nishar lahem, and because of this, the blood of the Kohanim.
No, admas, the land of the Kohanim nishar lahem. The land of the Kohanim remained by them. Instead of being sold to Paro, everything, all the land, all the people, all the animals of Mitzrayim were slowly and surely being sold to Paro for food because of the famine. But the priests, nevertheless, were allowed to keep their land, and that was a decree of Yosef as a course of tov to the priests.
How does this work? This medrash was written 1,000 years after this episode happened. Where did they get this information?
There was oral tradition all the way. There was oral tradition of the midrashim all the way down. They finally wrote them. It was just like that, Mishnah the Gemara. It was oral for a long time. It was finally get written down so people wouldn't forget them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is all tourist about that. Yeah, all tourist about that. Right?
Okay.
If I am the Igros Moshe and see in the Igros Moshe, Yoredea Chelik Beis Simon Kuf Lamed.
So
Shekasav Shem.
now Rav Zilberstein brings Rav Moshe Feinstein in his tshuva. Let's see a tshuva from Rav Moshe now. Go ahead.
Okay. Shekasav Shemitzvus Kibbut Avim Eitzel Umos Olam, who talks about the mitzvah of Kibbut Avim as far as the Goyim goes. No,
Excuse me,
no,
there's a background noise that is disruptive. Could you please shut off the background noise?
I don't know who it is.
Could everybody who's not speaking please mute? Because I don't know where the background's coming from.
Okay, thank you.
Nomedes Mimidas Hakaras Tov. We learned that from the Midah of Hakaras Tov. Shaharei Matsinu She
Hashem Yisbarach.
Hashem Yisbarach Hikpid Al Adam Arishon He Kaifei Tova V'Amar Aisha Asher Notati Imadi He Notati Li V'Ochel. That he was, because Hashem was strict against Adam Arishon, who did not appreciate the good that Hashem did him when he claimed that it was because of Chava that he ate the apple.
Right. So you see, so that was he was called a kafir. It was called an ingrate. He didn't appreciate. He didn't speak properly in reference to the wife that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had given him. Right. He was an ingrate, and that's a lack of a kurus tov. So you see that HaKadosh Baruch Moshe is learning that non-Jews have a mitzvah of kibbut avim, not because of the chiyuv of the Torah's chiyuv, but because of a logical chiyuv of hakoras tov.
Okay, nusach zeh hu bitu lekfios tova. This lashon here is one of denigrating the good that was done to him. Hashem Yisparach hikpid al kach, and Hashem was very strict because of that. Im kain lamadnu lamdim anu. If so, we learn from that. Chekofos tov, the one who denies the good, he devour isser. That's an isser bein Yisrael bein u'mosolim, whether it's a Jew does it or a goy does it.
Oh, so this also, by the way, if you remember when we spoke about on Erev Shabbos about the fact that Rashi calls Lavan a Russia, right? Remember we were discussing this question that when Lavan spoke before Besual, so Rashi says, since he was Kofetz, he the son spoke before the father, he's called a Russia. So we asked the question then, how can he be called a Russia? What's he doing that's so bad? Right? So then we asked the question then, is it that the non-Jews have a mitzvah of kibbut avim? So apparently this Rav Moshe is going to answer our question. They absolutely do have a mitzvah of kibbut avim, and it's because of logic, it's because of kurus tov. And therefore, Lavan, by speaking before his father Besuel, right? Lavan is therefore earned the name of and the title of a Russia for not having honored his father properly and speaking before him. So this will answer the question we spoke about on Erev Shabbos as well.
So is this an additional mitzvah above and beyond the 7?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the Gemara, I have to look at the Gemara. I forgot where the Gemara is. I have to look it up. That I think they're actually commanded in approximately 32 mitzvahs. And they're obviously, and what we're learning from this, anything that their logic will obligate them in, they're also obligated and responsible for. Not only obligated, but responsible for, if their logic would tell them that this is something that they should do.
So we're learning here that even if somebody is mamish an oved avodah zarah, we're obligated. If we have a debt of gratitude to the person, then we're obligated to help them.
It is we're at this point. All we're proving there's no isser. There's no isser of losis chanim. There's no isser. There's no prohibition of showing them favoritism. I mean, you can't show them favoritism if you have a obligation of a chorus of tov, right? Meaning if you do show them some type of favoritism, there won't be a prohibition of doing it. Whether or not now the Kumba say you're supposed to go ahead and do it, we haven't gotten to that stage yet. Right now, according to Rav Moshe, we've now eliminated the prohibition, but whether or not you're obligated to do something positively, we haven't proved that point yet.
Continue?
Yeah.
Okay. And even though we don't see this specific mitzvah as far as the goyim is concerned, we also don't see explicit isurim on bad traits.
Meaning we don't see that the goyim are warned about having bad midas, that they're angry people, they're depressed people, they're like we're talking about being ungrateful, right? It ain't great, so it's a bad midah to be ungrateful, not to show appreciation of some toiv, some good that a person's done for you, right? So we don't see that they actually have any specific commands about these things.
But all of these are really usher to B'nai Noach, these bad midos.
Right.
And this is clear in the Lashon of the Rambam.
Misyashiv is to settle, to answer. There's a question on the Rambam, and with this concept, we'll answer that question on the Rambam.
That the goyim would practice to give their father some kavod. Shelachora esa shir ze mixas kavod, and we asked the question of how much is a little kavod. Shekol davar she nira be'enai habrios lekafos tova, but anything that people would see and would be denying the good.
I think what it means here, shekol davar shenira b'nei abrias lekafos tov, I mean anything that would appear in the eyes of people that it would be ungrateful and ingrate about. The kafos tov, meaning
right.
if people would see that this and feel that this person's acting as an ingrate to this case his father or mother, so that would be a obligation that they would have to fulfill to not make that happen.
Right. And anything that people would think would be a disgrace. These would be usher from the Torah for a non-Jew to do to his parent. A convert is usher to curse his father who is a goy. Koso to hit him. Velo yavaza kadei shelo yamru be'ena shelo be'enav mekudusha chamor lekudusha kala for zeh mezava aviv, and he should not denigrate him. Okay,
disgrace,
that people would not say that something of a higher kedusha denigrates something of a lower kedusha.
Right, but people shouldn't say that you have this ger, that he came to us, that we the Jews have a higher kedusha and more strict kedusha, and he's going to act in a disgraceful way to his father, meaning according to the strict letter of the law, the ger is tina shanola dummy, right? He's like a newborn.
So he has no relationship to his father anymore.
Right. As a matter of fact, according to Torah law, he can marry his mother. If his mother is misgayer, if his sister's misgayer, he can marry his mother. He can marry his sister according to the Torah law. According to the rabbinically, you can't marry them. But according to Torah, he's a tinik shenishna. No, the dummy is completely without any relatives in the world. Midaraisa, he can even marry his mother if she's misguyer, or his daughter, or his sister, they're misguyer as well. Nevertheless, rabbinically, we said no. Likewise, also, he really therefore has no obligation to lechabed his father, to honor his father or mother. Nevertheless, we say, since people will look down on this, they'll say, this is ger, right? He was once respectful to his parents as a non-Jew, as a goy, and now he was misguy, became a holy Jew. And look, these holy Jews, they allow him to denigrate his and disgrace his father, his blood father. So people won't understand that. So therefore, we can't allow him to act disrespectfully to his blood father or mother.
Illinois bo mitzvahs covered. He has to show him a little amount of honor. Adkan Devarov.
The Rav of the
That's the Rambam.
Or maybe Rav Moshe. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think it sounds more like Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe Zatzal seems to be quoting the Rambam. That's probably Rav Moshe.
Okay. V'dayin gam ba'emek ha'davar l'netziv, and it's also clear in the emek ha'davar of the netziv, in Shmos Chaf Yud Beis, Shekasov, he writes, Aspara notenes shev mitzvahs shebin adam l'makom. Knowledge would give us that the mitzvahs that are between man and Hashem, Iker haschar tov hi ba'aretz.
A svara no sentence means logic would dictate. Svara no sentence, logic would dictate.
Okay, logic would dictate that in the mitzvahs between man and God, the Iker payment, good payment, is in the land, it's in Israel. Kamavar Rambam, as is explained in the Rambam, the Parshas Toldos, Ramban, the Parshas Toldos, Masha Ein Kain mitzvahs kiva aveim shu mitzvahs shekalas.
Sickliest. It's a mitzvah sickliest. It's a mitzvah which is logical from intelligence dictates. Well, logic dictates that you have to honor your father and mother.
Okay, so ein kol havdil bein zeh shemakayim osa ba'aretz. There's no difference one who fulfills the obligation in the land, to one who fulfills the mitzvah outside the land. And therefore, when the Torah writes about the mitzvah of kibbut avim, the man yarichul yomim, in order that the days will be lengthened. Al adama asher Hashem Elokeinu noten lach, on the land that Hashem has given you. That's in Devarim. The madnusha echad shehi mitzvah aseh hakasu b'Torah, that one who is obligated in the mitzvahs aseh in the Torah, hari kol chukei Torah. It's like all of the other dinim of the Torah. She'ein bahem tam v'seichel inushe. There's no necessary logic is behind the mitzvah. I'm not sure what he said at the end of that.
Okay, so 1 second. So it says here that he's quoting the Ramban in this week's parsha, happens to be this week's parsha, that the Rambam writes, Mashain came mitzvahs kibbut aim. It's a mitzvah sicklius. It's something which is logical. Ein kol hevdo bein zeh shemakayim be'eretz. There's no difference whether it's fulfilling it be'eretz Israel, shemakayim also b'chutz la'aretz. Since it's dependent upon a person's intelligence. It's a logical mitzvah, so to speak. It's a logical mitzvah. Therefore, there's no difference between fulfilling it in Eretz Israel or in Chutz La'aretz. And therefore, in V'chein Kasav Torah mitzvahs kibbut avim, it says there by the mitzvah of kibbut avim, Laman Yeruchon Yemecha Al Adamah She'Hashem Elokecha Nosein L'chai. Therefore, you should have a length of days on the land. What's the what's the connection between Kibbud Av V'Eim, that you have a Rikas Yamim, a long life on the Adama, which Hashem Kadosh Baruch Hu is giving us? Why does that end of the pasuk have to do with anything that is specifically on the land that Hashem's giving us? It's coming, little NATO is coming to teach us. This is a mitzvah aseh, which is written in the Torah. I mean, even though it's something which intelligence would dictate, nevertheless, the Torah still went ahead and wrote it into the Torah. That it's just like any other mitzvah. For example, those mitzvahs which don't have any reason to it, which is determinable by human knowledge or human intelligence, right? The many mitzvahs, shatnez, right, paraduma, tzitzis, tefillin, many of the mitzvahs that there's no real tam and nushi, there's no human understanding of why these mitzvahs be the way they are. We can delve into the mitzvahs to a certain extent, but it's still something which is completely what we call gezeras hamelech. It's the decree of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, decree of the king, whether we understand it or not. So even though that mitzvahs kibbud av v'eim is a mitzvah which you could logically understand, nevertheless, the Torah went ahead and taught us about it. In spite of the fact that you would understand it from your seichel, you would still know it through seichel, through intelligence. Nevertheless, the Torah, in order to give us that special extra reward, went ahead and wrote it into the Torah, even though we would have been commanded by that anyway through the logic of our own understanding. The Torah went ahead and wrote it anyway. So now he's now going to explain this. I think the continuation of the Amic Dover. What's the crucial difference between whether or not it's written in the Torah or not?
Because it's Rabbanan.
Oh well, no. Even a mitzvah siklis is also derisa. Right? Anything that your intelligence would obligate you to come to that conclusion that you're obligated in, that's also mitzvah derisa. There are many more mitzvah derisas than just the 613. 613 are the major mitzvahs which are written specifically, explicitly in the Torah, but there are many more mitzvahs derisa that are not written in the Torah.
But you have to have a pasuk.
No, don't have to have a pasuk. If you have a logic, if you have a intelligence, a human intelligence, that also makes it derisa.
I see. If you derive it, but you have to derive it from a pasuk.
The mitzvah exists whether we have a pasuk or not. If you want to remember the mitzvah somehow, so if you can attach it to a pasuk, that's a very good way of remembering it.
So it's Torah Shabbat Peh? Is that what it comes down to?
Well, it's more than Torah Shabbat. It's simple. What we call seichel anushi. It's human intelligence. There are things which human intelligence obligates you in. Simply by the fact that you're a human being, right, and have intelligence, that obligates you in certain mitzvahs.
Mm-hmm.
That's just part of the club, right? If you're one of the part of the human being club, you have these mitzvahs, whether they're written in the Torah or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, now the next paragraph, nafkamina, the actual practical difference between these 2 points is Eliezer Tzvi, you still there?
Sorry. Nafkamina, Ladina, Shla'inyan, Kibbud av v'eim, v'ben ger, v'imo Yisraelis. And the difference would come in the case of the son of a ger whose mother is a Jew. Ayin hetev adkan lashon.
Of the Amic Dover. So he's saying that the fact that it's written in the Torah or not, the mitzvah kibbud av v'eim would be practically found in a case where you have a mitzvah kibbud av by a ger, right, or by a person whose mother is a Jew. And maybe we'll take a look at that, but he's gonna go further, maybe we'll, on our own, we'll maybe take a look at it, we'll see. All right, so now it comes to a conclusion.
Hari Sevirule, Sheish Chovas Hakaras Tov La'aba Nachri. Therefore, it's logical that he has an obligation of Hakaras Tov to his father, who is a goy. Yalpizeh Yesh Makom Lomer, and because of this, there's a place to say Shemuter Leben HaYehudi, that is mutter for the son who is a Jew, Lahatil Es Aviv Hanachri, to save his father who is a goy. Sheshlo Klafav Chiyuv. Because this is all becomes a part of the chiyuv of a karsatov. The aim is that isur shel lo techanim, and that is not subject to the isur of lo techanim.
Okay, so according to this, right, the ger who would need to save his father, or a Jew that has a non-Jewish father, apparently there wouldn't be an isser of lo sichanim.
What's lo sischanim?
Not to show them don't show them favoritism. Don't be favorable towards the non-Jews. Not to show favors to the non-Jews. Person shows favors to a non-Jew, he's violating a Torah command.
Ella the tachin.
Talking it's possible. Rather, it's possible. Talking is possible. Rather, it's
Okay.
possible.
It's possible. Sha'afal pi sheyesh chiyuv shel hakaras tov, that even though we have an obligation of hakaras tov. 1 second.
Right.
Okay. Mikol makom ein lahat silo. He shouldn't save him. The Hana Kasev or Rambam, because the Rambam writes, Paraches Malachim Malachi Yud.
Good.
Tziva Moshe Rabbeinu mi Piha Gvura. That Moshe commanded because of or through his strength.
No,
the
that's an expression referring to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, mi Piha Gvura. That
okay, from Hashem.
right.
The
Moshe was commanded through by Kadosh Baruch.
The kofes kol bo'e olam lekabel mitzvahs shenitz vos b'nei Noach, to force everybody, all the people who live in the world, to accept the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach. The hispir hemshech hachma.
That's the Meshech Chachma. That's the Meshech Chachma.
Oh, and then Meshech Chachma explains
good
in Bezosa Bracha, she'af she'ein mitzvah lekof akum liskaer. That even though there is no mitzvah to force a non-Jew to convert, of al zayin mitzvahs kofanoso, we do force him to perform the 7 mitzvahs.
Right.
Is there rock?
If you get hold of a non-Jew, right, you lock him in a closet and you say, Fritz, you're not late coming out until you decide to keep the zayin mitzvahs b'nei Noach, right, Barry?
Yeah, if he's living in Eretz Israel.
I don't know. It didn't mention anything about Eretz Israel. I mean, it could be anywhere.
You mean even Chutz La'aretz? That would be an obligation?
Yeah, we right at this point we didn't see any distinction between Eretz Israel and Chutz La'aretz, except in the particular point about the Kibbutz Avos with the Rambam. But why not? More anyway. More of them live in Chutz La'aretz than in Eretz Israel anyway.
I'm sorry, more what?
More non-Jews live in Chutz La'aretz than in Eretz Israel anyway.
That have mixed marriages.
No, it's not necessary. It's not relevant so much to a mixed marriage. It might be more problematic when it's a mixed marriage. Maybe you should really. I mean, it's not going to help. If you have a Jewish woman living with a non-Jew who keeps zayin mitzvahs b'nei Noach, it's not going to do such a, not going to help that. But in general, he says it's according to the Rambam, you have a mitzvah to force the non-Jews to keep the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach. It's only, after all, it's only to their own benefit. right? If they don't, if they're not going to keep the Zayim Mitzvahs Benoach, they're in big trouble, right? They're very, very big trouble. So if you force them to keep the Zayim Mitzvahs Benoach, you've given this person a lease on life.
Mhm. You're helping him.
You're definitely helping him, of course. Of course, if he's not going to keep the Zayim Mitzvahs Benoach, he's in a very bad situation. Okay.
Kizer Rak Shmiras HaSeder V'Akaras Hayotzer. This is, all of this is just keeping the plan and giving, and recognizing the good of Hashem, Yotzer Bore, Asher also at Adam Yasher, who made Adam, who made man. The Hama Bakshu Cheshbonos Rabim.
Vehema bakshu cheshbonis rabbi. Meaning kizer rak shmir. Meaning he's explaining as follows: when according to the Rambam, we're commanded to force the non-Jews to keep the 7 mitzvahs b'nai Noach. This is simply shmir seder. It's just keeping order and hakaras hayetzer and recognition of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, who created us. And therefore he has many different requirements of us, right? That's all it is. So not very complicated, right? You have to force them to keep Zayim Mitzvahs B'nai Noach because this is simply keeping the order of the world the way Hashem created it to be, and giving them a recognition of a Kadosh Baruch Hu is the creator and has therefore things he wants us to accomplish, and he wants the B'nai Noach to accomplish also.
When it says that he created Adam Yashar,
Right.
what is that word Yashar doing in there?
Adam is literally, it means straight. He created human beings, right? That they should behave and operate according to proper intelligence. He gave each and every human being the proper intelligence to navigate through life and be successful with their lives. And if they go off the path and they don't recognize that they're supposed to be keeping Zayim Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, so it's our job to set them straight. It's only for their own benefit to do that. So therefore, we should force them to keep the Zayim Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. It's simply like a policeman. A policeman's there to keep people from driving too fast, from going through red lights, right, Barry?
That's their job, right?
That's right.
In other words, all the citizens in the policeman's jurisdiction are obligated to follow the traffic rules,
Right.
no matter who they are.
Exactly. So likewise, you have the Kadosh Baruch Hu created human beings, Yashar, with the proper intelligence to understand, and he gave them the 7 mitzvahs to follow. And if they somehow are not aware or not keeping the Zayim Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, it's our obligation to get them on the road again. If a policeman sees a car driving on the opposite side of the street, right? It's not only the policeman's job; it's anybody's job to get this guy get back on the right on the right side of the road, right? It's not simply a policeman's job. Any normal citizen would see a car driving on the wrong side of the road, right? He would certainly do his best to get this guy back on the right side of the road for his own benefit, for the benefit of other people too.
But practically, chutz la'aretz, we don't have that koyach.
Whether with that's a technical question, right? That's a technical question. We'll elect you to be president of the United States or the Secretary General of the United Nations, Barry, and then you'll get to work, right?
It depends on who my enemies are.
No, you won't have any enemies. Everyone loves you. Everyone's loved you.
But
That's why you're the right man for the job.
I don't think it's correct to say that we don't have the ability in Chutz La'aretz. First of all, I don't see any difference between Chutz La'aretz and Eretz Yisrael in this regard. And second of all, we have an ability. I mean, if you see a car driving on the wrong side of the road, you're gonna take off your coat and start waving it, or wave your arms, or I mean, you're gonna yell at him. You're gonna do lots of things to try and get him on the right side of the road. It has nothing to do with whether we're in charge or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's if we have the opportunity to do it, right? So we're even obligated, we have the power and the obligation to force them to do it, right? Practically speaking, whether we can do that or not. So that's a technical question, whether or not we can actually do it. I mean, but there's quite a big movement of teaching the non-Jews the 7 mitzvahs B'nai Noach, and it's being somewhat successful, Baruch Hashem. There are I think over 250,000 Filipinos in the Philippines. They're learning and becoming B'nai Noach, and in Africa there are many that are doing it, and all over the world, and in South America, I think there are large portions of the populations. I'm not saying majority of the populations, but there are somewhat significant minorities of the populations that are now being indoctrinated into keeping the Zion Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. After all, it's not such a difficult thing. It's not, Hashem doesn't ask that too much from them. He understands that they're not capable of keeping the 613 mitzvahs of the Jewish Torah commands, but their 7 mitzvahs, if it's explained to them and then they learn it, and it's they understand the beneficial aspects of it for themselves and for their families and societies, and they learn it, and if they pledge to keep it, and they do their best to keep it. So it's something which is to their benefit. It's to the benefit of the whole world. This is what a Kodesh Baruch wants. Let's see. Okay, it's 10 to maybe instead of starting a new paragraph now, excuse me, we'll take a break here. We'll take a break and start the Mr. British in a few minutes. Okay. Very good.
Okay,
Thank
break.
you. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you. Everybody have a very good afternoon. Hope to see you tomorrow. And we'll be beginning shortly the Shir Mr. Brewer Halik base in Mr. Brewer Volume 2, that is Simin Kuf Chav Ches. That's involving the laws related to Nesias Kapayim, otherwise known as Birkas Kohanim, the bracha that the Kohanim give the congregation. Okay, we'll continue soon, Mitzvah Shem. Hope to see you then.